Despite multi-year high prices, China has been an aggressive buyer of U.S. corn.
It used to be automatic. If the world needed corn, it called America. From Cairo to Shanghai, from Seoul to Rotterdam, that label, product of the United States, meant scale, quality, reliability. But in 2025, that label is being quietly ignored. Not because the corn is moldy, not because the product has changed, but because the world no longer wants to bet on instability.
The U.S. has lost the corn crown.
The Trump administration's widespread tariffs are already causing a significant drop in the price of several crops.
25% tariffs, that would be the main driver that would then make U.S. corn more expensive than Canadian corn.
In port cities around the globe, containers of perfect American corn sit untouched. Forklifts pass them by. Import logs stall in inboxes. Buyers vanish mid-negotiation. There is no protest, no angry press conference, just silence. And in trade, silence is death. YouTube is not the biggest fan of content like this, but we believe people deserve to hear the truth. If you agree, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps us beat the algorithm and keep going. We really appreciate the support. For farmers in Iowa, Nebraska, and Indiana, the signals are impossible to ignore. Orders vanish, renewals are cancelled, grain bins fill with last year's harvest and nowhere for the next. Contracts that once guaranteed steady income now sit in limbo. The world hasn't banned American corn. It has simply moved on. And Canada is stepping in. At the heart of this shift is a quiet but devastating truth. Global trade is not just about quality, it is about trust. And trust, once lost, is nearly impossible to win back. Across Asia and the Middle East, buyers are opting for Canadian grain instead, not because it is better, but because it is dependable. The paperwork arrives on time, the supply chains are clean, the politics are quiet. In a trade environment defined by volatility, Canada offers something priceless: stability. In Saskatchewan and Manitoba, shipments once bound for Indiana are being rerouted east and west. Alberta's grain terminals are expanding. British Columbia is finalizing new rail corridors to Asia. Provinces that rarely made headlines in the global grain trade are now writing the future of it. Meanwhile, back in the United States, the damage is mounting. Ethanol plants are scaling down.
The U.S. ethanol industry has struggled since the onset of the coronavirus. Due to reduced demand for gasoline as a result of less driving, demand for ethanol fell sharply, resulting in reduced production margins.
Corn co-ops are overstocked. Loan officers are declining renewals. The economy of the American Midwest, once built on feeding the world, is now drowning in its own surplus. But this is not just about corn. Brazil's rise in the May agricultural estimates was the first public sign of a deeper change.
Brazil is likely to export more corn than the United States for the first time since 2013. Farmers in the western U.S. Corn Belt dealt with a drought in 2022, which resulted in a below-trend national corn yield.
4 million more tons of corn forecast, a quieter, cheaper, and politically safer source. Within weeks, buyers rerouted contracts south. And while the United States debated tariffs, Brazil harvested. Countries that once depended on U.S. grain pivoted with barely a word. Egypt cancelled orders. Vietnam rerouted containers. Saudi Arabia stopped returning calls. And the shipments that would have gone to Chicago or New Orleans, they sailed instead from Brazil and Canada. Global buyers are not demanding perfection, they are demanding consistency. Canada delivers that. Canadian provinces have invested quietly for years. Manitoba's blockchain inspection systems, Alberta's rail-to-port tracking, Quebec's digitized customs filings. These systems now define modern agriculture. They make every shipment verifiable, traceable, dependable. And it is working. While US corn sits in shipping yards, Canadian grain is moving. The erosion of US dominance is not loud. It is slow. It is systematic. Illinois, once the connective tissue of the American grain network, is losing its function. Conveyor belts are silent. Storage is over capacity. Farmers are being told to plant less, not because of drought, but because the market is full of corn no one will buy. Even Nebraska, a powerhouse of American agriculture, is seeing rejections from buyers citing unclear origin, a euphemism for political risk. What was once a trade advantage is now a liability. Every handshake, every deal, carries the shadow of tariffs, inspections, sanctions. In contrast, Canadian exporters show up with clean paperwork, consistent product, and no surprises, and for international buyers, that is enough. Mexico, once the largest importer of US corn, is signing new agreements with Canada. Japan and South Korea are diversifying their supply. Canada is not bragging. It is not advertising. It is executing. Quietly, competently, strategically. American farmers are paying the price of politics they did not write, but Canadian farmers are benefiting from preparation they did not boast about, and the world is watching. The American Midwest is not failing because it stopped producing. It is failing because the global market stopped trusting it, and trust, once broken, does not return with a tweet or a press conference. It returns with systems, with structure, with follow-through. Canada built that while America postured. This is not about whose corn is sweeter, it is about who can deliver. And for rural America, the consequences are growing more personal every day. In Des Moines, storage warehouses are turning away deliveries. In Hastings, Nebraska, grain elevators are offering prices below cost just to clear room. In Bloomington, Illinois, ethanol plants are operating at half capacity. This is no longer a policy issue, it is a human issue. Families are putting off medical expenses. Equipment purchases are on hold. Young farmers are giving up on succession plans. Some are selling land that has been in the family for 4 generations. Others are taking second jobs just to cover loan payments. And still, the corn keeps coming. But the world is not coming for the corn. This trade collapse did not come with sirens. It came with silence. The phone calls that stopped. The emails unanswered. The containers returned without explanation. In Iowa, one farmer described it best. "We did everything right, but the world doesn't want us anymore." That feeling of being left behind while no one tells you is the real cost of reputational collapse. And that is the space Canada is filling. While US farmers wait for policy clarity, Canadian exporters are offering 5-year contracts. While US buyers demand payment in advance, Canada is offering terms. While American trade advisors release statements, Canadian shippers are making deliveries. This is not about winning a trade war. This is about replacing a trading partner. What America built over decades was undone in a few short years, not because it lacked supply, but because it lacked predictability. That vacuum is not theoretical. It is being filled by railcars, barges, contracts, and handshake deals across the Canadian prairies. And every one of them is a deal the United States used to have. Let us know what you think in the comments. And do not forget to subscribe to Auto News and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest political economic updates.